Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. We know it's early, but we have our coffee. We have our coffee. But I'm here this morning. I'm super excited. I'm super honored. And you guys, we are super blessed to have Miss Sarah Alvarez here to speak with us this morning. So just a little bit about Sarah. Sarah and I went to high school together. That was 18 years ago, guys.
Wow.
18 years ago. Sarah and I, we went to high school together. And you
It's
see
been
how
that long.
What was that, Sarah?
It's been that long, huh?
We're getting old, honey.
Oh man.
We are.
You're not gonna talk about that.
Okay, Foster walking in them hallways in high school. Good morning, ladies. Yes, but I wanted to reiterate how God can bring people back together after so many years. So, like I said, always stay connected, always build relationships, always, because you never know how you can come back together in life. So, I would like to introduce you guys to Sarah Alvarez. She is a mother of three. She works in corporate America, and she's been in her career for 9 years, right? And she just not too long ago launched the We Two Alliance, and we'll be talking about that a little later. So, Sarah, can you say hi to the ladies?
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate you having me on here. It's one of those discussions that it's a lot of people shy away from, and it's a hard topic. So I really appreciate you giving me the space.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important for our voices to be heard. We've been silenced for so long as women in so many ways. And just for you to have the opportunity to come here and speak publicly about it, like I really appreciate your courage for being able to do that. So thank you for speaking out and not letting your voice be silent.
Thank you.
So thank you. And so let's get into it. Sarah, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, thank you. My name is Sarah. I am a first generation Afro-Indigenous Mexican American. So that's a mouthful, but it's a lot about me. My father, he is Afro-Indigenous. He's from the Tepehuan and Huichol tribes in the mountains of Durango, Mexico. And my mother is Mexican, originally from Durango as well. My mother immigrated here to the United States when she was 6 months pregnant with me. And so I've always considered myself incredibly lucky to survive that journey and to certainly, give me a better life. And so that also means that I'm the only person in my immediate family that was born in this country, which also, has its own challenges, its own advantages and responsibilities. And so I also have an older brother who is 3 years older than me. When I was about 2, we moved back to Mexico to be with our father. And so I spent about 7 years there. And so that also means I have a deep connection with my roots, and I speak Spanish and English fluently. And so that's an important part of me. I've lived here in the Bloomington-Normal area since I was about 10. I attended BHS, which is where I met you. And I also attended Heartland Community College. I work for the Wilbur Group here locally. It's an attorney's office. We represent insurance companies, and I work in subrogation. And so I've been there for just about 9 years. I also spent several years at AFNI, like most of us have, right? If you're a townie, you've been at AFNI. So definitely have an experience there in the financial recovery field and insurance field. I also work at a local nonprofit, BCAI School of Arts. I'm the director of advocacy there. We serve the youth in the community. And I've also been the Spanish-speaking advocate for an organization called Talking Trees Incorporated, which I've been there for about 7 years. It's a nonprofit that supports adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse. And from there, I found the We Too Alliance, which is also a nonprofit that supports specifically parents who are survivors of childhood sexual abuse. I'm a mother. I have three incredible kids. This month in June, they're going to be 14, 11, and 4. So they keep me busy. I also homeschool them. So we're a homeschool family. So they are absolutely the focus of everything that I do. So absolutely busy, career driven, a mother. I'm always knee deep in adventure. I'm constantly working in the community and just trying to make a difference where I stand. So that's
yes. What an amazing story. What an amazing story. And I know you talked about how you're a mother and you're a community activist. And then you also have a full-time career. How do you have time for yourself? Like, when is Sarah's self-care time? And what do you do with that self-care time?
Well, I mean, let's just say that the pandemic and the whole me time thing just all fumbled together, and there is no such thing as me time anymore, to be honest with you. There is no me time, especially because I'm now working remotely. And I also have been homeschooling now for about 1.5 years. And so that means that me time doesn't really exist. I'm always with the kids. I'm always busy, but that means that self-care is like number one. Self-care, 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 self-care. Loving myself enough to take the time to take care of myself, taking care of my health, making sure that I have the right supports for my mental health, which is really, really, really important as a parent and especially a survivor of any level of trauma. And having the right nutrition, having the right supplements that I need, having a really good routine. So my morning routine is extremely important to me, and it's really like rigid. And I have to wake up at 5. I have to have my morning coffee. I have to sit down and meditate. I have to sit down and read for at least 15 minutes. Or I just listen to music, or I dance in my living room by myself, whatever I feel like doing that morning. I need morning time before I clock in at 7. I usually clock in at 7 a.m. So from 5 to 7 is my me time, and it's quiet and it's time for me. And so it's really, 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 really important to me. And also means I have to go to bed really early so that I can wake up that early. And so my nighttime routine is important. And so I'm just been more rigid about my self-care. And I think that gets me through it.
I love that, Sarah. I love that you dedicate 2 hours in the morning before the day gets started, before the kids get started, before the job gets started, before the world gets started, that you take that time for yourself. And you're very intentional about taking that time for yourself and your own well-being. And that's one of the things that we advocate for in Pretty Ladies with Ambition, is taking time for you. Right?
It's very important.
It is important. And like you said, even for our mental health. And if our mental health isn't well, our children's mental health is not well. Right?
Exactly.
So one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was overcoming some challenges that you had with childhood sexual abuse. So with raising children and you going through what you went through as a child, how do you protect your children moving forward, and how do you help other women with assisting their children with their mental health?
So I always start out with the statistic. One of the biggest statistics that we show, even with just any Google search, is that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 6 men. That means 1 in 5 people have experienced some type of childhood sexual abuse before the age of 18. And so with those current estimates, it's reported that 60 million survivors of childhood sexual abuse are in the United States alone. So we're just talking about Americans. And so if there are 60 million survivors, when I started experiencing it, I had to really come to grips kind of with that number. For me, statistics are big, and I'm knowledge based. I like to learn. And so, statistically, again, one of the biggest triggers of childhood trauma happens to be simply motherhood. And when you sit and think about it for a second, it's for obvious reasons. Because if we experience something as children, we're going to see mirrors of ourselves within our kids as they start to grow up. And so those triggers are going to flood in. For me, the trauma started very early on when I was about 2 years old. And it was very close in my circle. My father was my perpetrator. And so the trauma was heavy and very early on. So I've been diagnosed with things like PTSD, complex PTSD, anxiety disorder, chronic pain, rheumatoid arthritis. And so I've learned that through the experience, if you experience any level of trauma, if your body will remember it, even if you don't remember the details, even if you don't have the memories or anything like that, your body remembers somehow your body remembers. And so for me, it came back like a bear attacking me, but it happened just after my daughter was born, and she will be 14 next month. She's my oldest. And so when she was a baby, I started having really bad nightmares, like really, really intense, heavy nightmares. I wouldn't wish them on anyone. So I would wake up in a cold sweat, and they were very, for me, it was PTSD nightmares, that it was basically reliving childhood memories of trauma in my dreams.
Wow.
And so it was very realistic. It felt real. It felt very real. I would wake up in a cold sweat. I couldn't sleep. I wouldn't sleep because I didn't want to have the nightmares. And so then I became very fearful of the world around me. I was very hypervigilant, very untrusting. I had this irrational fear that something terrible was going to happen to my baby. The anxiety was really, really high, and I couldn't control it. And even to the point that I couldn't shower comfortably. I would take a shower as fast as humanly possible, wash my hair as fast as I could, because the PTSD triggers were convincing me that something terrible was going to happen to her the moment that I left her side. For me, the worst things that happened to me in childhood always happened when my mother wasn't around. So I had a lot of anxiety attacks, panic attacks, and it really affected all of my relationships. It affected my marriage, everyone. And so that's when I knew that I needed help, and I had to look for counseling. And so I had been in counseling as a child after we had gone through court proceedings, and we went through, I was 8 years old and testified in court, and that in itself was traumatic, but counseling, court-ordered counseling came with that. But I didn't speak for about a year after that. At school, I didn't speak. At home, I didn't speak. I didn't speak to anybody. I just stopped talking for a while, just to cope, I think. And so counseling to me already felt like, oh, that's not going to help me. You know what I mean? And so it took a while for me to come to grips with how or what kind of help I really needed, how to find the help. And I mean, that's a whole conversation in itself to go into, like finding the appropriate help and that fits you, and the counselor that understands you and connects with you is a whole other battle. But so I went through a lot of difficulty in finding good work, because I wanted to be with my daughter all the time and make sure she was safe. So I would take on a lot of babysitting jobs and nanny jobs so that I could have her with me. And one of those nanny jobs was for a woman that is actually a trauma therapist. Wow. And so I didn't know it at the time. I applied for the job. She had me come over with my daughter for an interview, and she tells me that she is a child trauma therapist. And I'm like, oh man. So that the healing journey for me kind of slapped me in the face with that job. Yeah. And was like, okay, it's time. It's time for you to dig deeper. And so I started counseling. I started therapy. I did a women's group therapy, and I did EMDR therapy, which was very, very helpful for my symptoms and different triggers. And so for me, that has been part of the work, was finding appropriate help, discovering the need to get help, seeing how your relationships are affected, seeing how your day-to-day life is controlled by a lot of these symptoms, that's when you need to realize that help is needed. And I didn't, like you said, how do you protect your children, right? That was my main thing, was this will never happen to my children. This will never happen to my children. And you have to come to grips with how you're going to go about breaking that cycle. It's not just, no, it's not going to happen to my kids. How am I going to go about breaking that cycle? Because then I learned that it's a cycle. It's a cycle. Mm-hmm. And so very much generational trauma, very much generational within my family, within my roots, within my mother's family, within my father's family. So when you start to dig deeper into it and understand things like that it was not your fault, that you were a child, that you were a toddler, that you were a baby, that you were a little kid, that you were just innocent, and that it wasn't your fault. Once you get past understanding that and you go deeper, you start to see that it is a generational cycle, and that if you do want to not pass that on, you have to do some work. And that breaking those cycles, you can't just simply say, I'm not going to do that. It takes work to break the cycle of abuse. And so that's been my mission ever since motherhood started, ever since symptoms started to take over my life. I decided that my daughter would not have those symptoms. My daughter's life would not be controlled by symptoms. My children would grow up free. And so that started this journey of healing. I found an organization called Talking Trees, and Talking Trees has been around for 10 years now. Dr. Rosina Bokhari is the founder, and she has been my mentor for about 7 or 8 years. And she is amazing. She's a psychologist, PhD, published author, and she has been working to support adult survivors. And it's the only organization internationally that supports specifically adult survivors who have experienced sexual abuse before the age of 18. There's a lot of organizations out there that are for prevention, which is really important. We obviously have to prevent this from continuing. There's a lot of other organizations like #MeToo for assault, sexual assault survivors or rape and things like that. But there's not a lot for specifically the children who experience this type of abuse early on, who then grow up. We grow up, we become parents, and we get into relationships. We have responsibilities that we have to deal with, along with the trauma, along with the symptoms. And so this organization supports the adults that then grew up with those things. And so we do a lot of programming that is centered on healing the adult survivors. And so we do workshops on, healing mother trauma, on parenting after trauma. And we have a yearly conference where it gives opportunity for survivors to come together. The pandemic kind of messed that up a little bit, but we're going to continue that on, meeting in person, hopefully next year. It's April 15th of every year, and it gives survivors an opportunity to come together in community, meet each other, talk, connect. And so from there, the most important thing that became my tool, like you said, to deal with how do I deal with it, is to have community. Community. It's my favorite word, community. I love my community of survivors, community of people who understand, people who get it, people who have been there, people who have chosen to not stop at the victim, but move on to being the survivor, and then moved on to being thriving and to being transforming into different things. And so that community has been essential for me. It's everything to me. The organization is found by, like I said, Dr. Bakari, who is a Black woman, and representation truly, truly, truly matters. Truly matters. And when I learned that it was a Black woman that found this organization and I started to get to know her, it just meant everything to me to have representation, you know, for her to understand. My culture is obviously different, but very similar. And I've grown up from the time I was 8 in this country. So it's very important to me to have the proper representation. So I did find counselors that fit me, groups that, you know, that fit my my style, the appropriate therapy that I needed. But again, that's been a really long journey, long journey that has taken me lots of different places. But in that, I'm still a mom. Mm-hmm. And for a mom, you have to have certain tools that are going to help you break that cycle. If that's your choice. If you're saying this is not going to happen to my kids, you then need tools, because for a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, once you start to address it, it's not just something that happened to you. It's something that happened in your family or within your circle or at your school or at your church or at your neighbors or in your neighborhood or at camp or at a sleepover or wherever. It's always a close circle, according to statistics. It's always someone you know, 90% of the time, according to statistics. A babysitter or someone like that. So it's not just something that happened to you, it happened in your circle. And as you start to unravel that, it becomes a much bigger issue. You see a bigger issue. And that can be very hard to deal with, because that means confronting a lot of those things. And a lot of times family, a lot of times friends and church circles are not ready for those conversations.
Wow.
When you are not ready to have those conversations, because then your village, the village that it takes to raise a child, they have to admit that they failed you. And that's a very, very difficult thing. Very difficult thing. And for someone who has always been the caretaker, the easy target, the easily manipulated, it's very hard to even ask. It's to even ask for family to address those issues that are clearly bothering your everyday life, because then you have to unravel all of the village that failed you. And so that's very difficult.
And with doing that, does that make you feel isolated?
Yes.
You know, like me and them instead of us, that community that you were talking about.
Yeah.
So, you know, with that being said, how were you able to go back and speak with the community who essentially failed you? Like, how did that conversation go?
Well, not great. I'm currently not in contact with my mother. I've chosen to be no contact because of those discussions. Reconnecting with my brother, who was disconnected from us for a long time. Helped me to understand a lot of the pieces of the puzzle that I was kind of missing about my childhood and things like that. And so I'm no contact with my mother, obviously no contact with my father. Haven't seen him since childhood. And so I have an older brother who is in town. So we are close, we get close, but that also means there's not much family support. I don't have family that lives nearby. My children have a lot of family in town. So so that's nice, but so I've had to build my family, chosen family.
Yes. I love that. I love that. I absolutely love that. You can build your own family. You know, you have God family, like you said, your spiritual family, your church family. You have your community that you guys have built over there. You have pretty ladies with ambition who love to lift women up. You know, we've all been through something, you know, and we never talk about our childhood. Like, we were going to school and none of us knew that each of us was going through something or another in childhood. And I just wanted to thank you, honestly, for coming out and being so brave to share your experiences and to share your story, right, with the world publicly, and healing women and letting them know that it's not just them. We've all been through something, right? And you can thrive after that, right? So can you tell us more about your future plans with helping women around the world heal from childhood sexual abuse?
Yes. So my main platform right now that I'm using is the We Too Alliance, and it's we do a lot of work locally, which is obviously a bounce off from Talking Trees. Talking Trees focuses on the adults. We Too goes more into the parents, which then addresses our children. And so what we do is we connect with professionals and educators and supporters in the area that are willing to support parents who've been through trauma. We have conversations that might be more difficult for us. We've had we've had trauma therapists come in and have consent talks for our kids. With the youth community at BCAI, we tend to bring in a lot of the youth, have consent talks that are a little bit more unfiltered, not the typical things that are talked about in school, because they're very limited in what they can tell kids at school within the school systems as far as consent and different discussions like that. It's very limited, it's very vague. And so we go a little bit deeper. We talk about things like, what is a predator? What is grooming? What does that look like? When you know that something is wrong, what does that feel like in your body? What is your gut telling you if you feel unsafe? What should you do about it? How do you speak up? What are different ways to offer consent? What are different ways to withdraw consent? And deeper into those things that we need to have those conversations with our kids. But a lot of times we're so knee deep in our own trauma that we find it hard to even start those conversations with our kids. How do we even talk about those things? And so we have discussions on periods. Let's end period shame. We all have periods. And so we have events where we create period kits for our teens and our preteens. And we load them up with all type of period products, different shapes, different sizes, feminine wipes and tissues and anything that they might need to feel comfortable when they have their period, to get them prepared ahead of time before they get their periods, so they're not like rushed into it or feel upset or embarrassed. We even bring the boys in for those conversations and say, like, what happens if you get your period at school? What happens if your friend, who is a girl, happens to get her period? How can you address that issue without embarrassing her? Instead of pointing and laughing, what can you do? Hey, we're going to put a hoodie in our lockers so that if our friend gets her period, she can wrap it around her waist and come up and have conversations and just have those unfiltered talks of, let's talk about what can happen and how we can address it. So we offer self-defense when it comes to those things. We've had workshops on, kidnapping, like how can you defend yourself in a situation where you may be kidnapped. We also are planning events for just the women, the moms, or just women in general who are not moms. Women period talks. Maybe some of those conversations were missed when we were their ages, and now we don't know how to deal with certain period symptoms. So we're going to have an event coming up in July that's going to address those things and bring in professionals. I'm still looking for professionals, so this is where I get to plug in and ask for more professionals to join us. I need more professionals who are willing to have those discussions. We're going to have some testimonies. We're going to have a testimony from a doula, the only doula of color in the area. She is new to the area, and I'm really excited to have her. I had a doula with two of my kids' births and a midwife. And so she will also be there, the midwife. And so they will be talking about women's health, vagina health. The doula is going to be giving a testimony about how to heal period symptoms naturally, addressing it through your diet, and what some of the triggers that she has learned, different products that really affect us, but we may not know about, like aerosol. We all buy the Bath and Body Works, but is that affecting your period? We don't know, because this information is not out there a lot, but there are actually laws being passed to stop certain companies from creating certain period products because they're so unhealthy for us, they're causing diseases and all those type of things. And so it's a lot of information that we just don't have readily available to us, and it's not talked about because, women's health is the last thing on the list. And so we talk about vaginas, we talk about healthy vaginas, unhealthy, what that looks like, how to address it, who to talk to, and things like that at that event. So that's going to be coming up in July.
Yes. Now, Sarah, you mentioned that you guys need professionals, right? So when you say the word professionals, what type of professionals are you looking for? Therapists? What specific type of professionals?
Yeah. So I say professionals, educators, and supporters. And so if you feel that you fit that category and you have something to contribute to this event in specific to women's health and vagina health, raise your hand and come and speak. It's simply a circle of women who are going to be sharing these experiences and their knowledge with each other. Women of every walk of life, of every color. And we also have a play that we're going to show at the event. It's a 3-act play written by Sylvia Young, who is out of LA. And she wrote this whole play, music, dancing, and everything to address unhealthy period symptoms. What's unhealthy? What does bad cramping mean? What does heavy bleeding? What is that your body telling you? When you skip a period, what does that mean? And so it's literally goes into it with music and art. And at the end of the play, we'll have a Zoom in live with her, as well as some of the actresses in the play, who will do like a Q&A, and we'll be able to talk to her. And so that's going to be part of the event. And so we're looking for anyone who consider themselves a professional, an educator, or a supporter who can contribute in any way to the event, even just in presence. Maybe you don't have anything to give. Maybe you just want to come listen. And that's what we need. That's exactly what we need.
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely be there, Sarah, in July. I would be at the event as a supporter, because I'm definitely down for supporting the cause, especially when it comes to wellness in women and women being well as an adult after childhood trauma or childhood. So I would definitely be there as a supporter. Sarah is in Bloomington, Illinois, so that's where the event is going to be held. And if you want, she was talking about some virtual opportunities, but I will also put her information in the post after this, so you can get with Sarah. And if you guys want to donate period products, they do like period boxes for the teenagers. Yes. So Sarah, you are doing some amazing things in the community, okay? And we appreciate you for that. We respect you, we honor you, and we look forward to, I know me with Ambition Women, looking forward to working with you in the future, because what you have going on is phenomenal.
Really. Thank you.
And especially healing women and healing children. That's all what I'm about.
It's a journey. I've learned that it's a lifelong journey. Once you start it, you almost you're like, okay, I want to heal now. Like, where is it? Where's the healing at? I just want to heal. And it doesn't happen right away. And it's a journey. And it's a journey that you continually have to work on. You constantly need the proper supports, the proper community to have surrounding you. And then when you become a parent, if you're not properly educated, how are you going to educate your kids? How are you going to protect your kids? If we're constantly living in survival mode, and survival mode means just protect, then we can't fly, because we're just protecting. We can't spread our wings and fly if we're constantly protecting. And at some point, we need to heal some of those things so that we can spread our wings and teach our kids that we can fly, and that we're not just always in protection survival mode.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sarah, for taking the time this morning to speak with us. Thank you so much. Is there anything else before we get off this live that you would like to leave the ladies to help them move forward from trauma? Any tips, any suggestions that you could give the ladies in the healing process? Because even with this pandemic last year, we all are still healing. It's like an aftershock after the earthquake. Mm-hmm. We're all still healing, and we don't know what to do, where to go, what's really going on in our lives. And for me, I always advocate to go inside. Just to go inside, because you're going to find all the answers within, and just to be still. Yeah. I think right now is a good time just to be still, reflect, and then move forward.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely go within. It's all the answers, you have them. And that's what I've learned in my journey, is that the answers are already there. You just have to uncover them. And sometimes that means putting the pieces to your own puzzle together a little bit, doing some research. I'm very knowledge based. I love to learn, so I'm constantly learning, and chugging along at all my degrees, even if it means just a class or here or there every semester when I can squeeze them in. But I'm very knowledge based, and in my research, I find that keeping yourself informed, learn about yourself, learn about your triggers, learn about your love languages. And many times, I've learned that many times, if you sit and read and learn your own love languages, you will find out that many of them speak highly as to what you didn't have as a child.
Wow.
There's a correlation there. And when I started to search through that and learn that about myself, I started to learn more about my own triggers and how to address them, how to cope better, and things like that, how to remove toxicity from your life. That's very hard. It's a hard journey to remove those things and to choose better, relationships, to choose better circles, better community. It's very hard choices that you have to make. Sometimes you have to leave people behind and move forward, and that's okay. And so I learned things like, there are some things that are unforgivable, and there are some things that forgiveness is not always necessary to move forward in your healing journey. Those are huge lessons that I have had to learn along the way that have helped me to move forward with my experience, because it's different than everyone else's. Like you said, everybody's gone through something, right? And when we get down to talking about the things that really affect us, it always goes back to our childhood somehow, and what happened in our childhood, and how our village somehow let us down. And those are hard conversations. I'm here for the hard conversations. I'm here if you need to talk. I reach out to me on Instagram, an advocate for survivors. It's always important to have those resources to reach out to in those moments when you feel like nobody could possibly understand this. Nobody could possibly know why I'm feeling this, but I just feel this and I don't know how to say it out loud. And then you reach out to one of your survivor friends or an advocate and say, blah, 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 and just dump it in their inbox, and know that it's a safe place to do that, and that you're going to have the right support if you need it. And so definitely reach out to me as a resource. I'm on Instagram at We2 Alliance, WE, the number 2, and then Alliance. I also would definitely follow at Talking Trees. We're also on Facebook, Talking Trees Survivors. Facebook is, the Facebook page for Talking Trees is essential for any survivor. If you have experienced any level of sexual trauma before the age of 18, follow that page. Dr. Bakari is a psychologist, so she knows what she's talking about. She's also a survivor, so she twice knows what she's talking about, and she will post almost daily just a quick paragraph to encourage, somehow support survivors. Just a quick thought. And a lot of times just that quick thought will mess up your whole life. Like, oh man, like I never thought of that. And that's so true. And so she has a way with words, and she's a poet. So look into Dr. Bakari. She's amazing. I'm like president of her fan club. Like, she's awesome. But definitely follow Talking Trees as a resource if you're a survivor. We often have live workshops where we meet over Zoom like this, several survivors. The board will meet in there, and people from our private survivor discussion group, and we'll have workshops on mother trauma. We'll have workshops on the 5, we talked about the 5 types of disclosure, like different ways that people disclose their traumas and how to respond appropriately and things like that. So for people who support survivors, that's important information. If you're a therapist, counselor, things like that, follow us. We have those type of things, and we have training for counselors and therapists that want to be able to be trauma informed and support survivors specifically on this topic, training for them so that they are able to do that more thoroughly. I also do a lot of speaking. So I've spoken at different places. I've spoken with a committee that trains doctors and nurses, and talking to them about how to recognize triggers in their patients after difficult experience that they've had where children have been triggered and they see it as a behavioral thing. And so they get disciplined rather than them recognizing it as professionals as it being a trigger of trauma, and how that just has a different road of approach. And so learning, knowledge and sharing the knowledge, that's been my game, and my purpose is to heal generational trauma on the road to creating generational wealth.
Yes. And it all starts with healing, right, Sarah? You have to heal from that. You have to heal from that trauma to be able to move forward in every area of your life. And I know for me, like, just being stuck, I just kept feeling like I was stuck, and it was something that wasn't right, where I wasn't able to move forward. It was because I was not healed, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to thank you so much for providing a safe space for women and for the community to talk about those experiences that they had as children. You don't even know the impact that you're making on women's lives. Because people they feel like they don't have a voice, or they feel like they don't have anyone they can talk to about some of the very serious things, the very hard conversation about things that's happened in our lives. Everybody is so beautiful, and we're just walking around like, I'm this person, I'm that, I'm da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, but baby, you need healing too. And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask for help.
Some of our bad choices stem from trauma. So let's heal that so we can make better choices. So I agree. So definitely, if you're a survivor out there listening, consider me as part of your resources, part of your community. Community has been essential to my healing and helped me move forward. And so I'm a huge advocate for finding your community, people that fit you, find your tribe, find your circle. And if you need one, reach out to me, and I'm there. So I appreciate you having me. It's great that you do this. I really appreciate you in our community, because the work that you're doing to get us our voice out there is extremely powerful, extremely needed. And you just seeing your smile every Sunday morning, Saturday night, like, girl, it just brightens my day. So I appreciate you so much.
You're welcome. And y'all have a good Sunday. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.